No.
Okay. Hello, my name is Gabriel.
You are?
Oh, and I'm a senior marketing and accounting double major at Providence College, and my mother is Dominican and my father is Cuban. And my father immigrated when he was 16 years old to this country, 15 years old to this country. And my mother moved here when she was about 30. Yeah, and then that's when they got married and everything. Any questions? That'll help me,
So, you said your mom, she came at 30 and then they got married. So she move here and then they met, or did they know each other and then she came here to be with him?
So it's funny. My father had gone to the Dominican Republic on vacation with his wife, his first wife, and they had met each other then. And then they didn't get to know each other that much. But then my father divorced that wife, and then a couple years later, he went back to the Dominican Republic. But he became really good friends with my mom's family, and then that's kind of where they hit it off. And then she moved to the United States with him.
So that's what made her move to the U.S. was to be with your father.
Yeah, and then more opportunities and stuff too.
Yeah.
Would she have moved here for those opportunities if it wasn't for Dad, do you think, or do you think that was just a little piece of it?
I don't think so, because she was doing very well in the Dominican Republic. She had her own business and things like that. Yeah, she studied accounting, and she had her own business with a family friend too. It was doing pretty well.
So you said that you identify more with your Dominican side. Why?
When I was 4 years old, my parents divorced, and my mother had retained custody of me. So I've been, living where I live most of the time. I'm always with the Dominican culture. And my father's side, I'd only see him every 2 weekends. So it was because of that. And over the summers, I would see him too, my kids' side of the family, but I wouldn't see him as much. And mainly because of that, and on the other side of that, just Cuba in general is kind of tough to go to. It's tough to, it's a lot harder to talk about because of the culture. Like the way my grandparents came to Cuba wasn't easy either. Whereas my Dominican side, it wasn't out of pain. It was just like, oh, we can go, so we went back to the United States. And it's funny because my Dominican side of the family, they're all in the Dominican Republic, like all of them. And I visited many times, 10 or 11 different times. But my Cuban side of the family, a lot of them are here, more so. But I still am more in tune with my Dominican side.
Mm-hmm. So you haven't had a chance to go to Cuba?
Not yet. I do really want to go, actually. I'm definitely going to go at some point, but I haven't been able to go. But there was a couple times that I almost went, because I still always could have gone because I was a son of my father who was Cuban, and he used to go every once in a while. But it was a really long process even for him to go. You have to plan 6 months in advance, get a visa, and you have to have a certain relationship. You can't just go. You have to be Cuban. You have to go from certain places in the United States. You can't just go from any place. There's a lot of restrictions on it. And it's very, very monitored.
Huh. So how does that work? Does your family have dual citizenship in these different countries, or how does that play a role living in the U.S. now?
So my Cuban side of the family definitely has dual citizenship because they were Cuban citizens, and then they moved over here, so they're now they're U.S. citizens. Yeah, and my mom's also U.S. citizen. Want me to tell the story of how it happened? The Cuba part, the Dominican part,
Sure.
So, my grandfather, my father's father, he was Cuban. He lived in Cuba and he worked on the army base. So he had one of the more reputable jobs in Cuba, but he still didn't make that much money. But then what they would do is, because they wanted to leave Cuba, obviously, they would steal some of the money. Not steal. They would get some of the money, hide some of the money, under in different places, right? Because you had to give almost I don't know what the percentage was, but almost all of it to the government, and then they would ration it out what you would get, and you'd have almost nothing. But so my family struggled, but not as much as most Cuban families, like my immediate family, and they ended up saving enough money so that when my grandfather's brother he was already in the United States. I don't even know how he got here, but he was already in the United States. He sponsored them. You needed a sponsor from the U.S. And he sponsored them, and they had the money luckily to pay for the flights, and then that's how they were able to come.
No, what about for the Dominican side?
The Dominican side, my mom she just came because she wanted to get married.
It's a lot easier to come here from the Dominican.
Yeah. If you have the money, if you have the means, you can do it. Of course, the Dominican Republic also, has a lot of troubles too. But in terms of conflict with the U.S., they don't. Therefore, you can go and come back a lot easier. And yeah, so I've gone many times. I love going over there. It's amazing.
It's beautiful.
So, question about
family status. So your parents were divorced. So in your eyes, who in your family holds like who's like the hierarchy of your like family, or like the matriarch, or like?
It's funny because in both sides it's different. In my Cuban side of the family, it's definitely my grandfather. Like the whole like male macho culture, like that's definitely a thing. And in my Dominican side of the family, it's my grandmother. She oh my God, she lays on the law. She's the type of person. She tells like what she says goes. Like everything goes around her. And both cultures are very like machista, very macho. The very similar cultures actually in food and the way that very similar. And obviously very both Caribbean. I wouldn't say one. I would even say sometimes that the Dominican culture can be more macho than Cuban. Even though my family is a little bit the opposite. My Dominican side, like they pamper the men a lot. Like I was very pampered as a man, but not necessarily like men are like we're greater than women, nothing like that. Yeah. But the roles were very like, okay, women are usually cook, men usually work. Like it was more like that. But definitely Dominican side, my grandma, Amantina, she holds the reins, whereas my father's side, my Cuban side, my grandfather kind of holds the reins, lays on the law.
Is that common for the grandmother to be kind of in charge on the Dominican side, or because you say it's like more of a macho culture?
I feel like it's not as common actually. No, I feel like it's not as common.
Usually it would be more of the grandfather or father. Would you say?
Yeah, I feel like my Dominican side of the family, like the women in it are just very independent, very solidified. Whereas in my Cuban side of the family, it's not as much like that. Like they are, but not as much, and that's kind of why. And also my grandmother my Cuban side of the family, like my grandfather is with my grandmother. They're together and they're living and everything. Whereas my grandmother, my Dominican side of the family, her husband passed away a long time ago. So it's only her. And even when he was around, she was still the one that laid on the law. But it's like
she just kind of had to step up as the matriarch.
Even more so, yeah.
And kind of your mom too when they got divorced. So do you think that they kind of became flipped because of their circumstances rather than what was more traditionally expected?
Exactly. Yeah, my mom definitely played the role of like father and mother when you're in the United States, and it was more difficult for her too because she was alone over here. Like it was only her. Like we didn't have a lot of family. It was basically like only person she could depend on was like my father's side of the family. But then when they divorced, like they didn't really get along. So it was kind of just her, myself, and my older brother who was 2 years older than me.
So it kind of forced her to be independent, kind of take on that role.
Very much so. And my family always joked because she was like always a baby of the family. But then like she has to grow up really, really fast.
Yeah.
She did so. She definitely did.
You said that you had similarities between like culture and food. How's like the language play a part in that too from your Dominican and Cuban side?
Similar, but Dominicans, each one has a little bit different. Cubans aren't as predominantly like, oh, like that's exactly what they do. They have like more just like a tone, whereas Dominicans speak very like almost can be broken Spanish. Like my family actually speaks pretty proper for Spanish, but like it's very broken. Like even when I speak, you can tell that I'm Dominican. Like I speak more in Dominican way because I leave out my S's. I cut off the end of words. Like I speak it very fast. It's almost like, in a way, it's almost like Jamaican broken English, but not to that extent. Not as bad. It's like still like very much understandable by any Hispanic culture.
So did you grow up speaking English and Spanish, like as a child?
Yes, I think that I learned Spanish first, actually.
Yeah.
Because my mother, my whole family, both sides, I speak to all of them in Spanish. And I'm glad because that's why I know Spanish.
Even to today?
Even today. Besides my brothers, I have two brothers. So I have one brother, Oscar, who is my mother. My mother had two children, two sons, Oscar and myself, Gabriel. But my half brother Jerry on my Cuban side, he's like 36 now, so he's a lot older than me. But he, what was the point? I forgot what the point I was hitting.
Language.
Oh yeah, the language. I speak to both of them in English. That's what it was. I speak to both of them in English.
Because the Spanish is not the same? Like you don't speak it the same way. That it's easier to just go English.
We just got like this is very customary. We speak it in English. You know, we just do it. We speak it in English.
If you were to get married and have children, would you continue to bring Spanish into your household? Would you teach them Spanish and have them speak Spanish?
My kids are gonna know Spanish. Like, no matter what. Again, if they don't, I'm sending them to Dominican Republic for a couple months or something. Like they gotta know Spanish.
How about religion? Is religion a big part of your culture, and do you still practice it? And would you pass that on as well with your family?
Absolutely, religion is huge. Myself, I haven't been as religious as I could be. In the beginning of college, I was. I've gone to Catholic school my whole life. I've been blessed to be able to go to Catholic school my whole life. But yeah, like my grandmother Amantina, my Dominican side, she is very religious. She prays all day. She's always praying. Every paragraph or every sentence she utters has to do with God in it or something religious. And that's how she is. And on my other side, my grandfather, he's not as religious, but his wife, my grandmother, on that side, on my Cuban side, she's also religious. She goes to church every Sunday, like without fail. So yeah, it's very religious. They very much of a factor in everything we do, in our values and culture and everything, what's right and wrong, you know.
Which religion do you identify with?
Catholic, yeah, Christian Catholic, both sides.
Did you grow up in a primarily like Dominican neighborhood? Like, I'm not sure where you grew up or where you lived, but was it?
So I moved a few times in my life. So the place I primarily grew up in was in Lynn since second grade, so that was like 9. And Lynn is there's a lot of Dominicans in Lynn. It's a very diverse city. It's not mostly Dominican, but there's a lot of Dominicans. A very big Lynn, Mass. Yeah, it's a very big Dominican population. It's also a big Asian population, big Black population, and white as well. Obviously, still the majority culture, but it's very diverse. Kind of like almost like Providence in a way. Almost like Providence. Very diverse city. What was the question?
I was asking if you'd grown up in
So
Dominican.
my neighborhood, in Lynn, my first neighborhood, it wasn't mostly Dominican. It was probably just like, it was pretty diverse. We grew up in, like, we spent like 3 or 4 couple years in it was like a rented apartment, but it was still like a more of a nice neighborhood, a nice area. And then the next one, we lived in a really nice neighborhood where it was like, I remember my mother's really smart financially and economically, so she got the smallest house, like tiny house in like a really nice neighborhood, because Lynn doesn't have like that many nice neighborhoods, like not that many. And like now the house is like pretty big because she made so many decisions to it, but she's always been like, that's where I learned from. She's so smart, so meticulous, and so like she knows exactly what she's doing. She's always making investments even when we're like in the dirt, like she was always making smart financial moves. And that's why like to this day, like I look at my house now, I'm like, wow, like, we live in such a nice neighborhood and like a nice house, you know.
Have you ever experienced any type of like racism towards like your culture or anything like that growing up, or has seen like or witnessed your family experiencing racism? Or?
Oh yeah, I mean all the time. I mean racism it's a part of my life every day. To be honest, it's something that I mean the overt racism, it doesn't happen a lot. It's happened to me, but it doesn't happen a lot. But I feel like racism, any person that is a person of color can kind of vouch for me that the way people interact with you, treat you, it's not like with malice. It's that like subconsciously people treat you differently. Especially like even being in Providence College, like I see every day, because most students that go to Providence College aren't used to having interactions with minorities. So then when there's like that unspoken of barrier that people have.
People act like they're guarded a little bit around.
Yeah,
they're hesitant at first.
Yeah, in every way. It's like even I feel like every culture you kind of drift towards what's more like you. Like you drift towards people that look like you. You drift to people that have the same culture, have the same interests. So it's every culture. But I think it's a little worse. It's kind of a little worse when it comes to when you're doing it to minorities, but because of all the history that's happened. Whereas if like minorities doing it to white people, it's not as bad because there's no history. There's not many negative stereotypes towards white people. You know. Right. So that's the difference. You know. But like definitely every day. I mean, the most recent one was I went to over Thanksgiving break. 3 of my friends, so it's 4 of us. We went to Sonic in Peabody, Mass, and we were just there. And then this three parking spots away, there was this car, this big white truck, and then they had like yelled something out to when I went to the bathroom. I came back, they were yelling something out to my girlfriend who was in the driver's seat, and it was just kind of just like, oh, like let me take you on a date, this and that, like kind of like a derogatory way of kind of just like catcalling her, you know. And then like I kind of just stood between both cars, and it's like what, like whatever. So they when they saw me, they shut the window, put the window up, exactly, put the window up. So I get back in the car, whatever, and then we kind of talked about it, but it kind of just died down. But I was a little mad about it, right? Then 5 minutes later, they go in front of both cars and they block our cars and they put the windows down and they start yelling out like racial slurs and homophobic slurs to us and saying they want. And this is like, granted, this happened a week after Donald Trump got elected, actually. But started yelling. I was scared for my life. Like I was scared for my life. I was scared for my girlfriend's life. I was scared for my friend's life. We happened to all four of us be people of color, and it was really scary. And that happened. Like things like that happen all the time back then. It doesn't happen as much, but it's still very prevalent. And because slavery just happened so very short time ago, it just happened, and things like that. I mean, just women didn't have rights like 50, 60 years ago. Same thing with that, So all the time I experienced that.
You keep talking about how successful your mother has been. What was her educational background?
She's so right now she's a high school teacher. It's kind of funny. My parents are both high school teachers in the same high school, but they're divorced. Yeah, in Wakefield, Mass. But she went to school in Dominican Republic. She went to college and everything. It's a school called the UAS. And then when she finished and everything, when she came here, she didn't need any extra schooling. She ended up being a teacher here, which actually she probably made like less money here than she would have over there because she had her own business over there.
So did she get like a bachelor's degree in the Dominican?
Yeah, bachelor's.
Is that common for women to be able to do there?
If you have money, usually.
If you have money.
Or if you have the means, like it's not.
To go to school. It's not like everybody goes to college.
It depends. I mean, racism is very prevalent in every culture, but like even in the Dominican Republic, like if you have lighter skin, you're usually gonna have more money. You're usually gonna. My mom's really light skinned, like a lot more than me. And if you have darker skin, you usually don't. Mm-hmm. Or like if you're Haitian, you definitely not. Like they really look down on Haitians. They literally call Haitians like. They call people Haitians as an insult. Like they're like, oh, like you're Haitian. Like if your skin's too dark, like it's bad. It's everywhere, and that's definitely a thing. My mom got her. She has a master's though. She got her master's here in Salem State University, about 6 or 7 years ago.
So would you say like education is very important in your family and?
Yeah, I mean, the Dominican culture is still very important. Education, but like it's not everybody has the means to do it.
Right. So
but usually it's still like a very like it's still a civilized very It's not a third world country. It's still doing its thing. Most people try to get educated.
So like curriculums are kind of similar, like elementary school, middle school, high school, similar to the U.S. or?
Yeah, it's mostly similar. Middle school, elementary school. When you go to college though, you don't dorm there. There's no dorms. There's no college dorms. That's very much of an American thing.
Wow.
Yeah, you usually live out. That's another thing. How do you even get to college? You know what I mean? You have to be able to have a way to get there too. So it's different. It's not the same. But it's very similar. Like it's not like you don't skip a grade. It's like it's called different. They call it high school secundaria, so like secondary. So they call it secondary education. And so it's like already called secondary in a way. So it's like college isn't as necessary almost. Like I feel like in the mind just by like the way it phonetically sounds. Like I feel like it makes it not as necessary.
What is your favorite Dominican food?
Oh my God, there's so many to choose from.
Give us.
I love rice and beans and meat. Like keep it simple. Like I love that. And in the food over there, it's just like you can make the same meal here, and if you make it over there, it just tastes way better. Because it's used by and the natural. Everything is natural. Like the beans, everything is just natural. Like the seasoning, the flavor. I also like mofongo, which is like a plantain. Mango is also like they use plantains a lot. Like you can fry it. You can. I don't even know the terminology for it, but everything, you can.
That was good from us Dominican. I get the pleasure of eating all that food.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
How about what in your culture, like what's the most celebrated holiday or the most important holiday that you celebrate?
I feel like holidays, I'm more Americanizing because I've always lived here.
Right.
Maybe El Día de los Reyes, which is kind of like Christmas. They do celebrate Christmas, but they also celebrate like the Three Kings Day. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like a little bit after Christmas.
Yeah.
So they celebrate that very much. Maybe Easter. I think that would be the Día de los Reyes. Dia de los Reyes. I've been losing my Spanish in college, to be honest.
So more of the holidays that have a religious connection are.
Yeah. Definitely religion is like huge. Like, I don't really hear them talking a lot about Halloween. I think they probably celebrate a little bit, but they don't really.
Right.
Yeah.
Share with us your musical background. And when I say background, like in the Dominican, what type of music? What's the dance like? What's it like?
So first of all, my mother is still into music. She still plays music every day. I was here over there this weekend, and she like made a song for me and stuff. She's like really into music. She's so artistic. But salsa, bachata, merengue. Those are the main three.
Okay.
Salsa, bachata, merengue. And like a lot of other dances like deviate from those. So that's like the main ones. And even like the Dominican culture here in the United States, it's still the same thing. Like we always, like every family party, we're always dancing. Like I love dancing. Because my family wasn't here as much, like I wasn't. Like I could have been a lot better dancing. I wish I was better. Like I'm getting better. I still dance all the time.
Video, do you want to do a little salsa stuff?
I mean, if you want me to, I will. If you guys want to dance, like I'll teach you guys.
You might help us get an act now.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are definitely the main three, and like it's fun. It's fun stuff, and anyone can learn. Honestly, anyone can learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said you dance at every family party. What other like traditions does your family carry over?
Food and dancing is the main thing. It's just like so my Dominican culture like honestly has been like more like reinvigorated almost. I don't know if it's the right word to use, but in the past like 3 years because my girlfriend's also Dominican.
Oh, there you go.
And like she has a huge family and they're all here. So like now I've been getting good at dancing because I'm always going to their parties.
Their
But
parties,
yeah, before that, my Cuban side of the family they celebrate holidays more Americanized. So Thanksgiving we eat like turkey stuffing, like mashed potatoes, like
The
it's like
traditional,
yeah, it's more traditional. So my Dominican side because in the DR I don't always get to experience
you don't have
that
as
part.
big
You know,
family gatherings, yeah.
because I used to go for some summers like maybe a month in the summer, but like as I got older I'd go less because I have a life here too, you know. So I don't want to leave my friends and it's expensive and all that. So that too.
What would you consider to be the most disrespectful thing in your culture, and then in reverse, the most respectful thing in your culture? You could do it, say, in maybe family context or like. If
Is there anything in your culture that you don't agree with or that you're not?
Oh yeah, so
proud
much.
of?
They're very all the isms. They do that. Like one of the main ways to like kind of diss someone, I guess, in the Dominican culture, like especially like, as men, is called to call them what's the word I'm gonna say it's maricón, which means like literally like it's a homophobic slur, and like they use that in language all the time, like all the time.
Yeah.
Same thing with the whole Haitian thing, like or tú eres haitiano, like you're dark or something like that. Like that's the way you really can disrespect somebody.
So more the insults are.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
the way you really yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's like a no-no that like if you did that then you would be like totally offending somebody? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like in certain cultures if you point with one finger, like that's super offensive. But to us it's not.
Let me think. Similar, I mean, I guess similar. I would really say that like, the homophobic thing. Like if you call someone that, like that's like the ultimate sign of disrespect. Like, oh, whatever. Like me, I'm not gay. Like whatever. It's like that bad. Like it's like.
So is that something that's not accepted over there?
Not like, a lot more now, but like it's still like. I guess it's more like the United States in the sense that like people like talk about it a lot, but they don't like. If someone's gay, they don't like go kill them or something like that. Like it's way worse over there though. Like in that sense, like, they really like, look down on it a lot.
So it's not as many people are comfortable with like coming out or saying that they're
yeah. I feel like any macho culture would be like that because like a part of like being macho is like not being gay for some reason. I don't know, but yeah, it's like what it is.
Would you say it's also because obviously would you say maybe because it's part of a religion as well?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of cultures that are rooted in religion. I don't know if that's still recorded. A lot of cultures that are rooted in religion definitely have that. I would say everything is based on religion, you know?
There's something else I want to ask, like in regards to like family dynamics and relationships, like, you know, like a father-son relationship or a son and mother relationship or siblings. Is there anything that culturally is different or stands out or I don't know if I'm saying that.
I mean, I would say like in terms of like as men, it's like baseball is huge. Like it's like that's how men really bond a lot. I don't have a Dominican father, so I can't speak that much on it because my father's Cuban. I mean, I'm trying to think of my uncle. My uncle's Dominican, and we really bonded off baseball. We bonded off a lot on baseball. Honestly, both cultures too. My father wasn't really into sports. My grandfather was really into sports. So like I would play a lot of baseball. Like he taught my brother and I to play baseball. Even though he's Cuban, but they're really similar cultures, honestly, very similar cultures. So,
what about like your role at home? Like I know you talked a little bit about kind of that traditional gender, like the women do the things in the house and the men. Like, do you feel like you grew up in a household like that, or do you think that there was more mixed roles?
There were more I grew up. My mother really, even though it was only her, she really pampered my brother and I. Like to the point where I just learned how to cook last year. Like
so she did primarily the housework and the cooking and cleaning and that kind of stuff.
Like now, I've just being in college, like I've developed all those things now too. And like I go back home, like hold on, like I'm doing that. Like, no, I'm watching. But even like last year, like she was like, why are you washing dishes? Like I'll do it. No, like I'll do it. Like it's okay. Yeah, I could do. I could wash this. I can clean the house. Like she didn't want to leave me. Like 4 years ago, she didn't want to leave me in the house alone because like she didn't want. She's also like overprotective. Though. She didn't want me to drive either. Like it makes no sense. But like she like was like, what are you gonna eat? Whatever. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like I promise you. And the first day, oh my god, I made terrible food. But I learned. I learned I can cook now, so it's okay.
Right. It sounds like your mom is a very strong female that does it all for her family. Like it sounds like she made something of herself. She made something of your family. She cooks, cleans, works. She does it all, and at the same time has a very good sense of, I guess, she sounds amazing. She's successful, good for her.
No, she really is amazing. Like, I mean, on a salary of just like a high school teacher, she literally like has us in one of the best neighborhoods in Lynn. Like that's crazy. Like that to me is crazy. She like growing up, I don't even remember her ever buying like an article of clothing for herself. Like everything was about. She was just all about kids. She's just got a boyfriend like a couple of years ago. Like no, last year, and I'm so happy. But like. Even that, like, she was single for, like, 20 years, literally.
So the type of person who puts herself last. Puts everyone else before herself.
Yeah. Now is when she's finally, doing that, and I'm happy for her.
Closing out.
Did you have
So what's one last thing to share with us? Like, what is one thing about your culture that you're particularly proud about?
I love how laid back we are. We are so laid back where, like, if you're Dominican, you're family. Like, that's how, like, everybody's treated as family. One thing is pretty cool. Like, say, like, you look at a stranger across the street, like, you'll be like, oh, like, coronel, or, like, licenciado. Like, you'll call them, it's like here saying, like, oh, like, lawyer. Like, if I say I didn't know Liz, and I want to get her attention, like, I want to ask her, like, oh, like, I don't know, professor, like, doctor. Like, you call people up by just, like, random titles. They can have no job. They can have the best job. You just call them random. That's like a form of endearment. Like, that's what you do it. Like it's
kind
cool.
Of complimenting them almost.
And like I love my culture. We're so laid back. We're so like familial. Like my girlfriend's side of the family that actually lives in DR. When they come here, it's just like we just have so much fun. Like we connect fast. Like I feel like American culture. That's one thing they don't have is that like it takes you trust less. So it takes a little bit more time to connect. Whereas they're really fast. It's like oh, give me a hug. Like they're really like touchy-feely, welcoming, like inviting, just taking, warm, taking care of everybody. That's how it works. Like, oh, like, are you like, you want something to eat? Like, you want part of my sandwich? Like, that's how they are. Yeah. Nice. Food's amazing. Oh my god.
You have plans to go soon?
Yeah, I went. Last time I went was over last summer. I went for 4 days, and I only had a vacation for 4 days because I had so many RA job and like a bunch of other jobs, whatever. But I made sure to go for those 4 days because like I needed to go over there. Next time I'm gonna go probably like in a couple of years. Maybe next time if I can, but like I probably won't because it costs so much money and everything. So there and back.
Nice.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Gabe.